My name is Roy Jones. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at Eckert Connects, and we are so honored to have a couple special guests with us today. First, I want to introduce my co-host today, and I am so excited to meet him. Actually, he and I were just talking on Wednesday next week. I'm going to be over in the Orlando area with Hope Cross from Project Bridge. We're going to stop in and see Daryl Hand while we're there. So Daryl started with Project Bridge about 6 years ago as a transition coordinator, and he's been promoted to transition supervisor. He serves clients in Orange, Osceola, Polk, Brevard counties, and Daryl supervises the transportation staff, carries a caseload, assists in creating and maintaining community partnerships such as Noble, which we're going to hear about today. Daryl graduated from the University of Notre Dame, where he played defensive tackle, and he's since brought his passion for football to Project Bridge by hosting activities such as the annual Turkey Bowl, NFL Pro Bowl skills competition, and recently, Daryl joined the diversity work group with Project Bridge, where he assists in creating programming, town hall sessions, partnerships that encourage collaboration and awareness across cultures. Daryl, thanks for joining us today.
Roy, thank you, man. I'm really excited to finally be a part of your notorious lunch and learns. I've been able to be a member or just a fly on the wall on a handful of them, man. So I'm really excited today. I'm also excited to introduce our other guests with us today, Deputy Chief Ms. Tanya Smith. So really excited, Roy. Thank you.
Well, we are honored. Let me just read Tanya's bio real quick. Deputy Chief Smith for the Tallahassee Police Department. Tanya graduated from Florida State University and has been in law enforcement for over 30 years. Tanya is president of the North Florida chapter of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. She hosts trainings and programs that serve justice-involved clients. Tanya recently conducted a training for Project Bridge Central, which was overwhelmingly received positive feedback. And our hope today is to expand the cooperation with Noble to many of our other 140 programs nationwide. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us. We are honored.
Thank y'all for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are excited, and Daryl, thank you again for joining us today. I promised Daryl I'd be nice to him. I'm a stumpy little offensive lineman from Liberty University, and we just made the top 15 last year for the first time ever. But our goal is to beat Notre Dame one day, Daryl. I want you to know. And I was one of these guys that I used to clip those defensive linemen like you. So you got to watch it, brother. Watch your knees. That's all I can tell you.
Roy, well, nowadays, I don't want anyone coming close to my knees or any parts of my body. So by all means, I'll be on the lookout for that. And I tell you what, Liberty had a really great season. I became a fan, but you guys are a little ways away from seeing the big dog.
Hey, now we beat you in basketball. We beat you in baseball. Football's coming, brother. That's all I can tell you. Oh, well, let's get to the topic at hand. Take just a minute, Daryl, if you would, and talk about the presentation that Chief Smith had with your team, kind of what things happened there. Because I want to kind of use that as a launch pad for Tanya to talk about how we could apply this working relationship to all of our programs nationwide.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So just to start at the beginning, Roy, so yes, I'm the transition supervisor here in Project Bridge. And for those of you who don't know, our program does operate throughout Central and South Florida. And here in the Central region, we cover 6 circuits, covering over 12 different counties. And we're a community-based post-commitment program. So what that means is our program provides transitional support for clients as they are transitioning home from a residential facility. So we service our clients between both male and female, between the ages of 14 and 19. And so all of our clients would have had interactions with law enforcement. And all of them, I guess, in their from their perspective, would have considered it to be negative because they would have had to have been arrested, had to have been adjudicated, and sent to a program. But when those youth are transitioning home, we focus on 5 core areas of service. And those areas are education, mentoring, employment, life skills, and just overall support and transportation. Now, once I joined our diversity inclusion work group, we were then tasked to come up with a handful of different programming initiatives just to make sure that our programs are well-rounded, and we offer some other things outside of those core services so that it's not just always work with our clients. And so our relationship with Noble really developed as each quarter, our programs were offering community advisory meetings, and we made a very huge connection with our local district attorney, their community liaison, Ms. Kalila Escalera. And Ms. Kalila, if you're on, I'm sorry, I know I've been practicing your name for like the last 48 hours. And our local Orange County Sheriff's Department representative, Ms. Luana Rains. And so they originally had the connection with Noble. And just due to the cultural climate that we're dealing with right now, trying to develop some type of programming initiative to connect our youth with local law enforcement was really important to our group. So Noble offers a program which is called the Law in Your Community, and they reached out to our connections and wanted to get in contact with us so that we can start building on some programming revolving around discussing those tough subjects.
Excellent, man. It's really exciting. You know, we have focused as an organization nationally on this diversity topic. Of course, most of our programs, depending on the program, 50 to 65% of the youth we serve are minority people of color. About 50% of our employees nationwide are people of color, and we are really working to collaborate and be leaders in our communities on this issue. Chief Smith, thank you so much for being here today. If you'd take just a couple minutes and share with people about the vision of Noble. The name is perfect. I love the acronym. It is just perfect for justice and what we want to do together.
Right. So Noble, of course, stands for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. We have approximately 60 chapters nationwide with over 3,000 members. We're the conscience of law enforcement. I'm the president of North Florida chapter, which covers kind of Jacksonville down to Gainesville. And so we have a chapter in Central Florida. We have a chapter in South Florida, and they're actually trying to start a chapter, I want to say, in Hillsborough. So we're working on that. But one of the things that we concentrate a lot on the North Florida end is building those positive relationships with law enforcement, with the community, and making sure people see us outside of the police uniform, because a lot of times, especially with stuff that's going on right now, it's tough. You know, they see the badge, they want to run away. They've already had a negative encounter, and you got to try to fix that. So the Law in Your Community is a perfect program for that, because one, it teaches you your rights, but it also teaches you how to have that positive encounter with law enforcement. We're having open dialogues. So I will tell you, we'll back up a little bit on this just to kind of give an overview. We started this years and years ago, and we were doing it without any funding. It was just a lot of officers just going out into the community and having open conversations. Well, then the COPS program got wind of it and they wanted it structured, and then they wanted to give us funding. And so then we got money, and now it's all this huge program. And so all of us get trained, we get backgrounds, and then we go out into the community. I will tell you, I've been doing it probably 7 to 10 years without the funding. I will continue to do it without the funding because right now it's a necessary component because there's so much going on in the community. I'm in charge of recruiting right now. I will tell you, it's a struggle to recruit people to come into law enforcement. So you got to be able to have those open dialogues with the community. You got to be able to talk, and we have thick skin. I mean, some people don't like people yelling at them and just saying, but if you've had an experience, a lot of times people just want to get that off their chest. And the virtual platform, I will tell you, it took a while to get used to. We just started it in January, but it's been in your face. And I see Joe Smith is on here, our other counterpart from the U.S. Attorney's Office. We have done these in your face kind of presentations for a long time. We do scenarios. So we go through how you're supposed to do things, and then we put you through scenarios. And then the last scenario is we make you be the police and you have to arrest us. And you should see the things that people do and the things that people say. We've had, police officers get shot by a 65-year-old woman because she didn't like the way they looked. And so it's really comical because when you ask them, how did you feel as being a police officer having to deal with that situation? And they'll go, I was scared, they weren't listening to me. And so just to reverse that role a lot of times, it makes a big difference. So
Perspective is everything, isn't it? Perspective
yes,
is everything.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, I want to hear more about some of the kind of training you offer. I mean, how could a program, a community program, one that we're working in, collaborate with Noble, and what kind of things could you work together on?
So like I said, for the whole state, we have different areas. So South Florida has their chapter, and pretty much all of us do the law in your community. So Gainesville has a chapter. We all do that. We all do back to school programs. We do toy drives, Christmas toy drives. We do Thanksgiving baskets. We do blankets for the elderly. And if you've never gone into a nursing home with elderly, especially around Christmas time or right before Christmas time, sometimes you're the only person that comes to visit them. So we drop off blankets and we have a conversation with them. So it's really just taking off the uniform. We don't wear our uniforms, we wear our Noble shirts, and we just go out and have dialogues. The Law in Your Community is more of our biggest program that really just, because I will tell you, when it's face to face, it is really hands-on, putting people through, hey, how do you deal with this? What should I do in this situation? And we get a lot of questions because if you just look at the media and they just show those 5-second, 3-second blurbs, you think that's how everything acts. I encourage people to do ride-alongs with their police department. We tell people how to report a bad officer. We walk through those steps in this because a lot of people don't understand what they should and shouldn't do. So those are just key things that we do. But most of, like I said, all of our chapters do pretty much the similar things. And so if you're outside of Florida, there is usually a chapter somewhere near, and I can point you in those directions, that's all. But yeah, we are always looking for partnerships because at this day and age, we need for the community to see us outside of the badge. We need for them to understand, hey, we're human. We put our pants on the same way. We have our families. We live in a lot of your neighborhoods. And yeah, it's a tough business right now, but we still have a job to do. So.
That's awesome, Chief Smith. So can you speak a little bit more about what would be the right process in order to reach out to your local Noble representative in your area?
So I will make sure that everybody has my contact information, and then I will send the link to, there's a national website, Noble National website, which will have the regions broken up. But like if you're in Florida, it's easier for me to point you to the contacts because the website, I will just be honest with you, they're restructuring it. I don't like it. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I went on there the other day looking for something and I was like, oh, okay, I can't find this. So I'll make sure my information, I'll put it in the chat. You could just email me and say, hey, I'm in Central Florida. So what's happening right now is I'm kind of the central trainer for Florida. So I'm kind of tasking and training a lot of folks to make sure they're trained on the law in your community so that we're
Right.
getting more trainers on it. But yeah, they can definitely reach out to me and I will get them in contact with the person they need to get in contact with.
Awesome. That is
Chief,
great. And can you just speak a little? I'm sorry. Does someone
No,
have a question?
No, I just had a comment. This is Joe Clark, and Chief, I serve on the board of Eckerd, and I'd like to add my thanks for your participation today, um, and what's yet to come, because this is just so critical. I think to the success of these young people, and without it, too often they continue down the road to nowhere. And so this program is great, but your contribution, this type of relationship has always been important, but heavens, right now, given the state of everything, it's absolutely critical. So before we got too far along, I just wanted to add my thank you to you and everybody who participates in this program. It's great work. It's tough, but it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate that because you'll be surprised. We get a lot of the evil stares, the looks and all that kind of stuff. But when you hear that, for me, that makes my whole day. Just because I will tell you, you know, this is a difficult job. And we start off the presentation, who in here signed up to get shot at? Who in here gets signed up to get beat up? You know, who in here gets signed up to get spit on? You know, any of those things. And people are like, no, I didn't sign up for that. So just understand, you know, that's how we start off the conversations because we don't want it to be just about us. I need to know how y'all feel, what y'all have gone through, and especially our kids. So I'm saying this because there's a lot of adults on here. We have a kid version, we have an adult version, right?
Right.
Because I found out when we start teaching the kids don't know how to act because adults don't know how to act. So we spend a little bit more time on the adults. They get a 90-minute version, the kids get a 45-minute version. So when you're talking to the adults, you find out why the kids act the way that they do because the adults are acting the way that they do. So we try to tag team it with both, make sure the parents know what we're teaching. We're in 4 schools in Leon County, I will tell you that. So we actually teach all 7th grade civics class. We have a partnership with Department of Juvenile Justice. So they gave us a grant to go into the schools for all the 7th grade civics students. So they get this program and then they monitor them for the next 2 to 3 years to see if it actually helps them stay out of trouble. So we've been doing this for the last couple of years just to figure out, hey, is this going to keep them out of trouble? And I will tell you this year, because last year COVID hit, we couldn't do anything. But this year, the kids are so much more engaged. They're asking all the questions. They want to know about of course, they want to know what kind of guns we carry. That's the first fascination, which I'm not really understanding. But when they're asking those questions, we answer them. You know, I'm telling them, this is my 30th year in law enforcement. I tell people, God is not finished with me yet. I'm still a work in progress. But understand, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I want to give it to them like they need it. And that's how most of our team is. We're honest with them. If we don't know something, we'll say, hey, I'm not sure about that, but let me find out. We've done 2 presentations inside a detention center. And for those kids that are actually locked up, their mentality is really, really different. One was in South Carolina and one was here in Leon County. To listen to them tell you what they've done. Like one of the little boys said, I shot somebody, that's why I'm here, but I thought it should have been self-defense. But when we got through with the conversation, he said, I think I'm going to be okay when I get out because now I know I can go talk to an officer. So for me, that was awesome. That was like, I got through to him. Now there was another one that said, I just want to be the police so that I can take the law into my own hands. Okay, he's a work in progress. I got to go work on him. So we kind of do it a whole different, you know, different avenues because you got to meet the kids, you got to meet the adults where they're at. So you just, it's a process. So,
And I will say, having participated in the workshop that was hosted here, Chief Smith and her staff did a great job of just meeting us where we were. We had a mixture in the audience. We had young people and we had a good amount of staff, as well as parents on the line as well. And what the program asks of you is to do a pre-survey, of which there's Mr. Chief Smith, you can tell me if I'm right. I think it was 8 questions.
Mhm.
And it's very simple questions. They ask you, are you interested in being a law enforcement officer? Are you do you think that that is a difficult job? And then it asks you 3 questions about, do you know what your rights are? And I will tell you, some of the staff members, and I won't name any names, answered some pretty raw, incorrect questions, gave us some wrong answers. But it was really informative and really interactive. I think, although the virtual side did present us with some obstacles that we were able to work through, again, the group was did a really good job of keeping it interactive. Even if we had questions that kind of went a little bit off the script, they were still open to answer them and give them the best feedback that they could get. So definitely the program, I recommend it if you have an opportunity to present it, not only for the young people that we're working with, but for the parents as well as the staff. I think that would be amazing.
And I will tell you, so I see one of the questions, they said, is it just about citizens' behavior? No, we talk about police officers because we talk about how to report a bad cop. So we talk about those kind of things. So it's police, what to do with police, if the police tell you this and that. So we go over both the citizen and the police officer behavior. So I did see that question in the chat. But I will tell you, yeah, I will get a flyer to Mr. Jones, and just so you can actually see what the flyer is. But yeah, feel free to email me and I will put you in contact. I will tell you, more than likely, it will be my group that will do a lot of them until the rest of the state is actually up to par with the training. There's some, if you're out of state, but some of them are trained. But yeah, we're good. We know how to rock and roll with it. So.
Tanya, I love the concept of tailoring something specifically for staff and then having something different for the young people.
Yes.
I'm really interested as to how we get started with better equipping our staff. Any thoughts there? What are some of the differences?
So the adults, we usually go into a lot more of the searching and the season, like arrest warrants. So the kids, we kind of focus on the behaviors, like how to keep them out of trouble, what they should and shouldn't do. Adults, we talk about like officers coming to the house, what they should do. We talk about guns more so because people have concealed weapons. So we talk about a lot of those traffic stop situations. So we go into a lot more detail on those type of things. So, and those are the questions where adults really kind of might go sideways and start saying, well, the officer did this or the officer did that. So we have a lot more conversation about that because the adults have experience more than the kids. The kids are just, oh, it's the cops, we just want to talk to the police. So, and we're focusing them on trying to keep them out of trouble, or if they've been in trouble, make sure they don't go back into trouble. So we try to focus their behaviors on that. Whereas adults, we already know, some of them, like I said, I've been in situations where we've had hostile people, and you finally have to say, you got to draw the line, and you have to say, hey, listen, there's somebody in here that I might be able to save their life. I get it. If you don't want to be here, you're free to leave. Okay. And I will ask you to leave because you're not going to disrupt it. But I'm okay with them saying, I need for them to kind of get some of the stuff off of their chest, because they might go out and do something, or they might have a confrontation and it might escalate. So if we can kind of try to get to the root of what their issue is and then walk them through that situation. They might not have understood why the officer did what he did. You know, I don't know every situation that I've been in this business for 30 years, but I haven't experienced every single thing that an officer experiences. I can only talk from Tanya's perspective of how I would deal with a situation and how we think officers should react. But, you know, if, you know, I've seen 100-pound woman beat up a 300-pound man. And, you know, and the guy's telling me, no, she didn't hit me. She didn't hit me. I know she hit him, you know, because he's worried about what the guys are going to say that this 100-pound woman beat him, you know. So those are situations that you have to, you know, work through, and you got to talk to, and you got to say, hey, man, it's okay if she beat you up. We going to work through this, you know. So those are conversations that you have to be able to have, and you have to be able to have that open dialogue, and you got to be able to talk to people, because I will tell you, I mean, this business, this job is not for everybody, and everybody doesn't get in here because of the money, but it's one of those deals that you got to have compassion for what people's going through at that time.
Now, this whole concept of you coming into a situation and listening, there's healing that listening brings to people, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we get so many confessions. You'll be like, sometimes you're like, so like the detention center cases, we're like, hey, is your case over with? Because you're telling me a whole lot of stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, that's why I'm locked up. I did this, and this. So we have to be cautious, because you know, when people start asking us, we like to say, hey, just say my friend got involved in this, or my friend did this, so that, you know, that way, you know, there's that anonymity out there, that they're not, you know, they're not worried about us running out the door and go, hey, they got a warrant, or hey, they got something. So,
Yeah,
but we have to get past that. Yes.
So often these things are, people are afraid to talk about it, and you come in and invite that conversation. Like you said, sometimes it's painful for you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've been there. I'm telling you, I was a brand new deputy chief a year ago coming into Tallahassee Police Department. We had to restructure our community and try to bridge that gap. And so, yeah, and then we had 3 officer involved shootings in like 6 weeks. And I will tell you, it was very intense. And trying to go into the community after that and say, hey, we had a shooting, but we got to get past this. But you have to let them vent. You have to let them understand, okay, this is what happened, and here's where we're at. And you're not going to be able to please everybody, but we have to be able to have those conversations. And we have to be, and COVID didn't help us at all. COVID did not help us, because we couldn't go face to face with people. And so that kind of hurt us a lot. Thankfully, things are opening up. And I will tell you, I'm hoping National will let us go face to face with these presentations, hopefully by June. I'm pressing for them, because it's so much better face to face. I will tell you, it gets so much more out of it.
Right.
And I think people just hide behind their cameras a lot of times, and they're really scared. Like, I'll see the chat. I have people monitoring the chat, and the chat will just be going off. They'll just be chatting. But if you're face to face and you're actually there with the person, they're more likely to ask you, okay, what about this? Okay, can we do this scenario? What about this? So it's just a lot more, it's better in person.
But I will say, during the virtual version, there's still that moment, right, where you need to connect with the audience, and you guys did a great job of, well, at least when you guys were working with us, you guys did a great job of just breaking that ice, breaking that awkwardness. And we just speaking about the young people being so excited to get information, just about, because about that, you know, their rights and interacting with law enforcement. We also had a young man who kind of gave up a little bit more information than he should have, even though he was warned before the actual event. But it was so awesome to see him become so comfortable, to get further information just about that side of things. Even though he was already in the system, he still had a ton of questions, and didn't have a true avenue to get more information. So I can't talk more about how awesome the presentation was, and how awesome your staff did. One of my big questions are, you talked a little bit about the training that you guys receive. in order to go out in the community and do that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And what training what does training look like for you guys?
So basically, you have to be sworn. We have non-sworn people that go through the actual training, and the training, National has put together an actual PowerPoint, right? And so they have one PowerPoint, and then we have a PowerPoint that we do for Department of Juvenile Justice that we've been doing for years. Ours is specific to Florida, and we deal with Florida laws. And so National, because we have 60 chapters, we have, it's generalized. So we have to tailor ours to our state to make sure we cover. We know what the questions are usually, what people normally ask, so we incorporate those. So we go through that, and then we go through a background check, and then what you have to do is you have to present before a presenter. I'm certified, so you have to do the presentation, and I have to sign off on you doing the presentation. And everybody can't do this presentation, because I will tell you, some people, they get in there and it could go left, because if they start asking questions and the person doesn't have the personality, so I'm very select on who I let present. I know who my presenters are, and so every chapter president has to sign off, and they have to be aware of who's doing the presentations. Because if one person messes it up, it'll mess it up for all 60 chapters, I will tell you. Because everyone, who that one sucks. You're like, whoa, how they wait to say that, you know? So we want to keep the brand, and we want to keep it straight. So, and then, like I said, most of us are all sworn, because we have that background knowledge of what you're supposed to do in law enforcement, what you're not supposed to do. And then the non-sworn people that go through it, they're usually part of the scenarios, or they worked in law enforcement, or they're part of a university, because NOPA is open to anybody. Let me just be perfectly clear on that. You can be a supporting member. So you have a national membership, and you have a local chapter membership. So national, there's 3 tiers. There's regular membership, $150, social membership, $100, and then supporting membership is $55. So like if you want to further the goals of Noble in your area, you can sign up nationally as a supporting member. You would get all the newsletters, find out information about them, and those kind of things. So, and then you would be in contact with, they would find out who your local chapter representative is, and they would say, hey, Tanya, Daryl just joined nationally. You might want to reach out and see if he wants to be a part of your chapter. Then you could get on that chapter email list and find out all the activities that chapter is doing. So that's how we do a lot of our communications for the specific areas, so that you can actually find out what's going on with your local chapter and what activities they have. Because they do forums, they do all different kind of different things in the specific areas. So those are just mechanisms on how we get that. Yeah, the training is really is basic. Like I said, we've been doing it probably 7 to 10 years now. We've done about 700, 800 kids so far this year, just because we're in the schools. And then we've had about 300, 400 adults. And that's just since January. So I will tell you, we stay pretty busy with our community.
Chief Smith, could you, your Wi-Fi is dragging a little bit. Could you like work on your volume, maybe increase the volume just a little bit? That'll help us.
Yep.
You know, one other thing I'd like you to do, and I don't know if you can, it's kind of putting you on the spot. You may not be able to pull it off the top of your head, but is there one particular young person that just jumps out that you feel like you really, Noble really had a transformational impact on their life? Or any single stories you can think of? You don't need to share their name, but just situations.
So I will tell you about this one. We do, part of the law in your community is we talk about consent. And so in that, we go through when to give consent, how to give consent, you know, the whole process of what that officer should and should not do. Right? So last, month, I got a phone call that said, hey, Chief Smith, guess what? Officer stopped me. And I was like, oh, okay. Is that good? I was like, yes. Guess what happened? And I said, what? I didn't give consent. It's like, okay. But his friends that was in the car with him tried to make him give consent. So we go through this whole thing about, you never know who's in the car, you never know who dropped something in the car, because everybody's got that one friend that might be doing something illegal, might have something illegal on them. So you give consent and they drop something in your car, and now you're stuck with that. But the young man was so proud of himself because he stood his ground with the officer. And the officer kept asking him, and his friends were so adamant that he needed to give the officer consent. And so finally he's like, no, I'm not giving consent. And it wasn't, he didn't do it in a negative way, he didn't do it in a bad way, he was very respectful. But when he left, and the officer left, he got back in the car, and his friends was like, what was you thinking? Telling the officer no. Because I know my rights, and I didn't want to let him get in the car. Because one, I don't know what you guys got, but two, you just never know. And so when I got that phone call, I was like, oh my gosh, because I always say, reach one, teach one, always, if I can reach one, I can teach one. So when I got that phone call, it just really, it hit home for me that, hey, continue to do what you're doing. It doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. That stuck in me, and just say, hey, keep doing it, keep doing it. You saved one that day, because, we know we have some issues with cops, just like with every profession. So, and I apologize, I got a bunch of noise going on back here in the back. But that's the one thing that really stuck out for me. And I was happy for him, but I really realized that, yeah, we are making a difference with some of the people that we're talking to. They are listening, especially young people. So,
Wow, that is so interesting. I mean, for this young man to understand the right way to not give consent rather than making it confrontational and be able to de-escalate the situation, um,
so
that is powerful. That is powerful. Well, I want to open it up. We've still got a lot of people on the phone with us today. Any questions? Does anybody have anything? There's been a lot of activity in the chat room. I'm sure I haven't kept up with all of it. We've posted the website. We've posted how to contact you. We posted phone numbers, email addresses. So there's going to be a lot of follow-up communication. But does anybody have any questions for Chief Smith?
I do have one. This is Stanley. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Perfect. I work with EchoConnects. I'm one of the directors in Brevard County, specifically the Central Florida area, and we're looking to definitely bring a presentation to you all, thanks to Kalila connecting us as well. And I'm sure the answer to this would be yes, but did you see any marked change in responses, and since doing these, since the George Floyd incident, since all of the activities of last year? And if so, what kind of increase in response from the youths did you see? Anything markedly different from your previous presentations prior to that happening?
No, I think some of it we've added, like we have more. So some of the bulletins and stuff that we get, like we talk about the guns, we talk about behaviors. We have a lot more conversations about following directions and stuff like that. But we also spend a lot of time on how to report officers, because like with us, like at Tallahassee Police Department, some policy changes came in as far as de-escalation and those kind of things. We try to tell people how to de-escalate, because if I'm talking to you and you're yelling at me and I start whispering, then, I look like a crazy person yelling and you're whispering, because now somebody's going to be like, what's wrong with that officer? Why is that person yelling? So we try to talk through different scenarios and just add those different things. We try to talk about our training, because a lot of people want to know what kind of training police officers have to go through. Our job is ongoing training. Every day I try to learn something different, even after 30 years. But we do talk about those different things. We talk about the media. Media is only going to show you so much, and they like to stir the pot. They got a job to do. So we talk about those different things as well. But I will tell you, I see one of the questions in there. We always try to involve the local law enforcement in that area, just so they would know what we're telling them. you know, because I don't want to tell you something and then your local law enforcement officer, I don't care what Tanya says, Tanya's in Tallahassee, you know what I'm saying? And then you'd be like, whoa, but she's a cop. She still knows what the rules are. So we try to encourage them because we want them to know, hey, here's your local officers right here. These are the ones you're going to deal with once we leave, you know, leave town and those kind of things. So yeah, we partner with all the locals that we come into their areas because I go out of state to do this. I don't have no jurisdiction in those states, and I'm like, whoa, let me call the locals in case something happens. But so yeah, it's very different with those. So yes, but yeah, we try to focus on whatever's going on. We get bulletins as well. So any type of safety bulletins that we can show where a person has, like, we got a Nerf gun that's changed into an actual Glock. And when I tell parents, don't give your kids a gun, this is why I'm telling them. And I show them a picture of that, you know, because this is what we're finding on search warrants. So different things like that. When we tell them not to reach for their phone, that's because there's an iPhone that looks like a gun. So there's just different things like that that we talk about that we try to make sure that they understand.
It's amazing. Thank you.
And just
Any
to
other
kind of
questions?
piggyback off of that, Ms. Tanya also will, Chief Smith, I'm sorry, will also,
Tanya's
they
fine.
have informational packets that they can share with your program or send to your program so that you can have that on site and you're able to share that with your clients or parents that you're working with.
Absolutely.
Other questions? I know Curtis was on the line, who directs Project Bridge. I see our VP Anna is on the line. Any questions from the leadership team? Yeah, I'm calling them out. I'm calling them out, Chief Smith.
I see. I like it.
No, I'm good. I have to tell you, this has been very helpful, and I'm glad that I was able to join this call today. And thank you so much for sharing about the work that you're doing with Noble, of course.
Thank you. I would tell you, any of your local law enforcement, you know, the key thing is just find out what they're doing locally as well, because that's where it starts. You gotta, you know, you gotta get involved. Find out if they got a Citizens Police Academy. We just started a Citizens Advisory Council, which I have a citizens and I have a juvenile. So I have 51 kids on my juvenile. I got 22 on my adult. So I work with kids and youth, even outside of Noble. So, and that's for the police department. So I'm constantly trying to get information in to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing as well, because it's all about the community. We have got to get through, you know, these tough times right now. So, you know, it's about communication, open dialogue. You gotta have that open dialogue and be willing, you know, it's tough sitting at the table sometimes when people are yelling at you, but I'm good. I'll let them yell at me for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, how are we gonna fix this? Give me some solutions that we can move forward. How can we move forward from here? So, okay, the police are bad. Okay, what police officers are bad? I will tell you, I worked for FDLE for 17 years. I investigated police officers. I've arrested police officers, correctional officers, public officials. So I know, I tell people that all the time. So I say, hey, police officers go to jail, honestly. So y'all might not see it all the time, but they do. They're just like teachers, doctors, or anybody else. So I want them to understand, you know, sometimes you got to have that diverse background to make sure everybody knows, you know, we're human, we make mistakes, and, you know, you got to own it when you make it, and you just got to move forward. So, but we're in a position of public trust, and we got to try to keep that and maintain that to the best of our ability.
Chief Smith, somebody posted, are there any costs for any of this?
No, absolutely not. No cost.
That's a good answer.
It's a wonderful answer.
Of course, there's the cost of your time and
Yes,
travel and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate that so much.
we work through that. No, that's fine. Yeah, we like I said, we have a partnership with Department of Juvenile Justice, which covers the whole state. So the grant helps us out significantly. So that's why I'm hoping, like I said, come June, we can get back on the road, because we're opening our building back up. They're opening a lot of places back up. If I can just get Noble to say, hey, we can go face to face, I guarantee you we'll have a lot more presentations, because once people see it face to face, they'll be like, I don't want to do it virtually anymore. So,
I know we're the same way, you know, with over 2,000 employees and several hundred offices coast to coast. Everybody's,
wow.
it's like the engine's revving. Everybody's ready to get back to work in the office. So it
Absolutely.
is something. Well, I just wanted to thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. We are so excited about collaborating with you, helping you as you minister and care for our young people and staff. And it just means so much to us. And thank you, Chief Smith. Thank you so much for Noble and what you're doing.
You're welcome. And the DJJ person, Jacksonville is my area, so you can reach out to me directly and we will get that taken care of. I just saw that one. So
Right.
Jacksonville is actually my area. So, but yeah, I
Excellent.
appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate you and looking forward to doing some more of these. And hopefully we'll do some in person. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
it's coming
Sign
soon.
me up.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Daryl, thank you again. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And I want to
Sure.
remind everybody on May the 7th, that's our first Friday fundraising training meeting. We're talking about sponsorships. So please plan to join us on May the 7th on First Friday. Secondly, May the 11th is our National Night of Inspiration. It's an online event this year. You're going to see lots of promotions on our Facebook page and our social media, email. Please sign up. There's no cost to sign up and be part of it. We're going to be recognizing over 100 Success Award winners so far this fiscal year. And some of you have already been part of that acknowledgement process. We appreciate it so much. And then our next Lunch and Learn will be May the 19th with Venetia Wyndham from the Columbus, Ohio Workforce Program. So again, north to south, east to west, Eckerd Nation is everywhere. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. Again, thank you, Chief Smith. Thank you so much, Daryl. We appreciate you, man. And thank you again, Daryl Hand. We're looking forward to meeting you next week in person. So thanks, everybody. Have a good day, a good week, and we'll see you next time on Wednesday Lunch and Learn.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Nice seeing you, Chief Smith.
You too, Jeff.